Avatar, Fire and Ash is finally here. James Cameron is back with the third chapter of his massive sci-fi saga. And once again, Pandora looks more stunning than ever. But here's the twist. This time, critics aren't completely impressed. Some are calling it visually breathtaking. Others say the story feels recycled. The dialogue feels awkward, and the emotional impact just isn't there. So today, let's break down why Avatar. Fire and Ash is dividing critics. What worked, what didn't, and whether James Cameron is still in control of this franchise. Or slowly repeating himself. Expectations versus reality. Let's be honest. When you hear new Avatar movie, expectations automatically skyrocket. James Cameron took more than a decade between the first two films, so audiences assumed Fire and Ash would push storytelling forward, not just visuals. Critics went in expecting deeper characters, a darker emotional arc, meaningful evolution of Pandora's world. And while the movie delivers scale and spectacle, many reviewers felt something was missing: freshness. That gap between expectation and reality is the main reason the reactions are so mixed. Visuals. Let's start with what everyone agrees on. Visually, Avatar, Fire and Ash is unreal. Pandora has never looked more alive. New biomes, volcanic landscapes, fire-themed environments, intense large-scale battles. Every frame looks like it belongs on a giant IMAX screen. James Cameron's technical mastery is still unmatched. Critics admit that even when the story slows down, the visuals keep pulling you back in. This is cinema made for theaters, not streaming. But visuals alone can't carry a 3-hour film. Story. This is where complaints begin. Many critics say the story feels too safe. Once again we see humans versus Na'vi, colonization themes, family protecting their home. A familiar emotional structure. While the setting changes, the core plot beats feel recycled from the first two films. Some reviewers describe it as the same story, just louder and bigger. Instead of surprising audiences, the film plays things predictably. You often know where scenes are headed long before they arrive. That predictability weakens the emotional payoff, especially for longtime fans who expected something bolder. Now let's talk about the most criticized element of the movie, dialogue. This is where Fire and Ash takes the hardest hits. Critics complain that lines feel overly simple, emotional moments sound forced, repeated phrases break immersion. Some dialogue feels like it's meant to be epic, but ends up sounding awkward. A few reviewers even joked that if you turned the dialogue into a drinking game, you wouldn't survive the first hour. This doesn't mean the actors are bad. The performances are solid. But weak dialogue limits how powerful those performances can be. Characters and new villain. One of the more interesting additions is the new antagonist. Visually intimidating, conceptually promising, but critics argue that the villain lacks depth. Instead of feeling complex or morally challenging, the character often falls into familiar territory. Evil for the sake of conflict. Jake Sully and his family remain emotionally grounded, but some reviewers feel their arcs don't evolve enough in this chapter. There's growth, but not the kind that justifies the long runtime. Runtime and pacing issues. At nearly 3 hours, pacing becomes a serious issue. Critics mention scenes that linger too long, extended action sequences without emotional stakes, moments that could have been trimmed. The movie isn't boring, but it is exhausting. Many reviewers felt the same story could have been told more effectively in less time. When pacing slows, the flaws become more noticeable. Despite all this criticism, Fire and Ash does have strong supporters. Some critics argue, Avatar was never about complex dialogue. The franchise thrives on world building. Immersion is the real selling point. For fans who love Pandora, this film feels like returning home. The emotional beats still work for many viewers, especially those deeply invested in the Na'vi culture and family themes. So yes, the film works for its core audience. This is the big question critics are asking. Has James Cameron become too comfortable with the Avatar formula? The technology is advancing. The visuals are evolving. But the storytelling feels stuck. Some reviewers worry that future sequels may face the same issue, unless the narrative takes real risks. Avatar still dominates the box office, but critical excitement is fading. Final verdict: Avatar. Fire and Ash is a visual masterpiece trapped inside a safe, familiar story. It's impressive. It's immersive. But it's not groundbreaking in the way many hoped. If you watch Avatar for spectacle, you'll love it. If you expect bold storytelling, you may walk out disappointed. Now the real question is, Will the next Avatar finally break the formula?